Good morning, everyone. Is this thing on? All right. So, I'm going to give it a minute because I look to be just a little bit early. Not very much, but just a minute or so. So I want to get started right at 11:30. I hope everyone is having a good Saturday. It is Saturday, right? Time is meaningless. Can't be the only one experiencing that. So today we are going to work with one of my absolute favorite patterns. It's another one that I think is kind of underrated, and I have been making a list of those, and I'm going to continue this series on Saturdays. I'm actually toying with the idea of doing a mini live more frequently, but I'm definitely going to continue this series where I explore one tangle in several different ways over the next month. So my new calendar will be coming out. I said I was going to say that it was going to come out today, but I am feeling a little bit like a slacker, so I don't think that's probably going to happen, and I'm going to encourage you to look for my newsletter this weekend. And that will have my June classes, and I will, hello everybody. I will be having some cool offerings, both Zentangle as well as some different art type classes to share with you if you are interested. And then I will have some things going on my Facebook that you'll be able to join in on. So today I want to talk about the tangle pattern Hurry. And as you can see, what I've been doing, if you haven't been here the last couple weeks, is over the week I make a couple of different examples showing you some ways that you can use a pattern, and then I will show you the traditional or quote unquote normal way of drawing the pattern, and then I will talk about some of the other ways that I use it or that I have used it. So these three tiles are all the same pattern, and they're the one that we're going to do today. So when you are done with this little video, this little live or tutorial, however you're watching it, whether it's live or whether it is later posted to my Facebook page, you will have seen 6 different ways to use this pattern. I was talking to a CZT friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and one of the things that we talked about is that we learn a pattern and then we get locked into this way of doing it. So we draw it the same way all the time, which is great, and maybe it's really fun and you find it really relaxing, and it is the way that you enjoy doing the tangle. And that's great. And if you love it and that's the way you want to do your tangle forever, by all means, continue doing it that way. But sometimes we get a little bored, or maybe we want to expand our repertoire, or we think, I only know a handful of tangles. Maybe you're new. Well, one, if you're new, welcome. And I hope this gives you a new tangle that you can incorporate. But I also hope that it kind of opens your eyes to the idea that you can use tangles in ways that maybe you hadn't thought of before. So I'm going to set these ones off to the side, and we'll come back to them later. And I'm going to take my Zentangle tile and my pencil. And if you don't have supplies, because I know that life is a little difficult with the pandemic, you can certainly use anything that you have. You can use paper and a pen. I see so many of my friends popping on here. Good morning, everybody. All you really need, and one of the things that I love so much about Zentangle, is you only need a pen, some paper, a pencil, a tortillon if you have one, One of the things I am going to do with a little live sometime this week at the beginning of June is I'm going to teach you how to roll your own tortillon out of paper in case you don't have any. All right, so I'm going to get myself all comfy in my chair and I'm going to dive right in here. So hurry is a great pattern. I find it to be really, really relaxing. It's one of those patterns that, in addition to being very simple in its steps, can be both a focus tangle and a relaxation tangle. And if you've taken one of my beginner classes, you've heard me talk about that. How sometimes you have to have a tangle that you really need to pay attention to or focus on in order to reach that zen. And that sometimes you just want a tangle that doesn't require a lot of thought. And somehow this tangle manages to be both. So normally I do a couple of tiles. And today I'm actually going to do probably an extra tile because I want to show you two different ways to draw hurry. Okay? So to start with hurry, you make a line down the middle. Okay? And you're welcome to follow along with me, or you can just watch. This video will stay up so you can come back and you can watch it again. I'm not taking it anywhere, and at the end of the day, usually I take pictures of all of these and I put them into a little cheat sheet with some ideas that you can download and keep. So I make one line, and then I'm going to make a line, an aura to the right and an aura to the left. Now, you can make as many auras as you want, but I find that for this tile, keeping your numbers odd, so you have an odd number of lines, is helpful. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to do another aura to the right and then another aura to the left. And then I'm going to turn my tile. I'm going to draw another line down the center. I like to draw towards myself, but if you prefer to draw away from yourself, that's perfectly fine too. If you prefer to draw horizontally versus vertically, you can do it that way as well. So I'm trying really, as I go, to keep my auras the same distance apart. And some days I'm better than that than others, and that's okay. I don't think I've quite had enough caffeine yet today, but that's okay. So I'm just alternating here, doing an aura to the right and then an aura to the left. So I have 5 lines going in each direction. I'm going to tilt my tile just a little bit. So now I'm on the diagonal. I'm drawing my line down, continuing it through, my aura to the right, my aura to the left, my aura to the right, and my aura to the left. Okay. I'm going to tilt my tile again so that I'm going to go this way as well. That line's a little wider at the bottom than I meant to, but it happens, right? I apologize if you can hear some rattling. I have my windows open and it's making my door shake. But it's a beautiful morning. It's warm enough that it still feels like spring, but cool enough that I'm not complaining like I did the other day when it was 93. All right, so now coming back to this, you can see that I have a bunch of lines that kind of look like ribbons going in all different directions. So if this was a clock, it's 12 and 6 and 3 and 9, probably about 1:30, about 4:30, maybe around 6:30, 7, no, maybe 7:30, and then up here probably about 10:30. So you've just gotten this divided up, right? Now here is the part where we're going to change things up a little bit, okay? There are a couple of different ways to draw this. I'm going to show you my favorite way, and then I'm going to show you an alternate way. Both are perfectly okay, and depending on the way you're using the pattern, one may be easier than the other. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to look for my line, my first ribbon where there's no breaks. So you can see, and that one's always easy to find because I didn't have to stop and hollabah or hopscotch my pen around. I just have this one unbroken line. So I'm going to find that one, and I'm going to make an aura on either side. And you can do just one, or you can do a couple. I'm going to do two. So one to one side, one to the other, one to one side, one to the other. Okay? I'm going to flip my tile completely, and I'm going to do an aura to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. Okay, so now you can see that that ribbon is fatter, and it looks like it's starting to interlock and to weave into these other patterns. So now I'm going to look for the ribbon that intersects that, the cross piece to that. So that would be the one that's horizontal. Okay, like I said, I like to draw towards myself, so I turn my tile. I'm going to go to the right. And this piece is entirely up to you. You might find it easier to make them even, to also go down to this bottom part of that ribbon and continue. Or you might find it easier to flip your tile completely, okay? But that's up to you. So I'm going to do both of these so that I have my two auras, okay? So now I have these two fatter ribbons and two skinnier ribbons. Okay. One of the things that I notice the most with this pattern that I struggle with is that sometimes I don't go all the way to my line, and it looks much cooler if you go all the way to your line. Okay. So now I'm going to add auras on these diagonals, these crisscross pieces. And it really doesn't matter which order you do them in. But again, I'm going to do my aura to the right and my aura to the left. And I'm keeping the same number. So remember, I did 2 on each. So I'm doing 2 on each. Okay, and that alternating right to the left keeps me on track. Okay, I'm going to turn my tile again to the right, to the left. And you can see how this really starts to come together. Into a woven pattern, right? So I'm going to come back to that main ribbon, that first ribbon, okay? And again, remember, you can always find it by no breaks, okay? So to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. Okay, turn my tile to the right, and the left, and the right, and the left. Turn to my diagonals, go to my right, and my left, and my right, and my left. Now you could keep going. Turn it one more time. Finish up this last one. Until these little spaces were completely gone. Okay? Or you can leave it as is, and then you could come back and you could color these in, or you could just leave it with shading, however you like. So I'm going to shade this now because I really feel that this is one of those tangles where the magic really happens with the shading. And I'm actually going to show you something a little different today. Normally I use my Zentangle pencil, but because this pattern tends to be so delicate, I have really started to love using a mechanical pencil because it lets me lay my graphite down very, very close. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm finding where things look like they're overlapping. So right here, and then maybe here and here. Okay, so where they look like they're kind of tucked underneath, I'm going in and I'm adding a very fine line of graphite. And I started again with that big ribbon, and then I'll turn and I'll do the same on that horizontal. And the reason I don't want to add a ton of graphite is because if everything is shaded, then nothing's shaded, right? Because in tangling, we want the white to bring things forward and the dark to take things away, right? So I've done my two main ribbons here. I usually blend with my tortillon, and then I decide if I want to add more shading on those diagonal cross pieces. All right, so I'm not really pulling this graphite out like I do so often with other shading. I'm just softening it a little bit. Okay, extending it just a little bit, but really my goal here is to just soften it and to make it look like shadow. Okay, so then I'm going to turn. I know some people the sound the sound of this tortillon drives some people crazy. I find it incredibly soothing. So, all right, now I like what's going on here, but I really think that it needs a little bit more. So I'm going to turn it, and I am going to shade on my cross pieces on these diagonals as well. Sometimes it needs it, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm going to do each one individually and then do my blending. Okay. And then I'm going to turn it. And you could certainly do this with just your regular pencil as well. Like I said, I've discovered a new fondness for the mechanical pencil on this tangle. And a couple others as well. I really like the way that it fits into those tight little spots. All right, so let's see. And then I need some here, and here, and here, and here. And there you go. And now it looks all intertwined. And sometimes when I'm all done, I come back and I really accent like this little corner right there, because I really like the way, and then I darken that a lot. I really like the way that it gives that one little piece that pop up, right? All right, so that's the way that you draw hurry. That's the standard or the traditional or the most used method. I'm going to demonstrate, and I'm going to do this one a little bigger, just for time's sake, because I don't want to keep you here all day, although I would be happy to tangle with you all day. And I still want to show you a couple other applications for it. But this is another way to draw it. Okay. So this isn't even any specific difference in pattern. It's just the way that that I draw it. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make my line. I'm going to make an aura to the right, an aura to the left. I'm only going to do 3 this time. I'm going to turn my tile, and if you notice, I've made them, again, I'm spacing them the same distance apart. They're just wider. Hi, Kathy. Glad you could pop in. Okay. So we're doing it the same way so far, right? We have our main line, our 2 auras, or however many you'd like, a cross piece, a diagonal piece with an aura to the right and one to the left. I'm going to turn, I'm going to do another diagonal with an aura to the right and then one to the left. And then I'm going to come back, I'm going to find that main piece again, that main ribbon, right? The first one we drew. Now here is where drawing this is different than it was the first time, okay? I'm going to start, I'm going to add an aura. I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to turn my tile. I'm going to add an aura here. I'm going to turn my tile and go all the way around, adding auras to each line that I've drawn as I go. This is a quicker way to do it, and you're going to get the same effect, but if you are varying your lines any in width, then that's another thing I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes for a different look. You really have to pay attention to what thickness your lines are supposed to be. I usually draw it the other way unless I'm working in a really tight spot. So you can see how that came together really a lot faster, right? And I'm not going to shade this one just because I already showed you how to shade it, and I don't want to take the time away from the other ways we're going to draw this. But you can see how, I'll just do this main one right here. It still has that interwoven, interlocked look, and you can do the same things with it. Okay. All right. So there are so many fun ways to draw this. I already have a border on this tangle. I want to show you now some of the fun ways you can do this to use it as a string. So this time, instead of drawing my line straight down the middle, I went slightly off to the left. Okay, I'm going to leave a space and I'm going to make an aura. Okay, and when I'm using it this way, I often do not do the odd numbers. Okay, and you'll see why in a couple minutes. So I made a ribbon, and now I'm going to add a skinny little aura to my right, and I'm going to add a skinny little aura to my left. I'm going to turn my tile. Again, slightly off to the left, not crossing over anything. A nice little aura there. I always think of it about this like the width of my fingernail when I do this, because I can get caught up in doing tangling that's far too tiny. I mean, not that there's really any such thing, but then I will be at it all day. Okay. Gonna go again diagonal. I made these a little skinnier just because there's not quite as much room, and it doesn't really matter if they are all exactly the same size. In fact, that's something fun you can do with your hurry, is to try varying the sizes of your ribbons, and you'll get some really neat looks. I've killed another micron. I do that a lot these days. I find that my pressure is not as delicate as it used to be, and I'm not used to that. All right, so I have a very solid hurry here. It doesn't have a lot of auras, but it's the basic shape, right? So now something you can do, and you could continue with this and, you know, do your auras all the way around, and I will do that in a minute. But what I want to show you is that you can come in, and in these bigger ribbons, you can add in other patterns. Right? So, and you could do really simple or really complicated patterns. It's entirely up to you. I'm just going to do some shattuck in here, something nice and easy. And then I'm going to turn it, right? And you can see I love patterns inside patterns. Okay. I can make my decision now. Do I think it's going to be too busy if I continue with my pattern and my pattern? I don't think so. I really don't. So I'm going to continue. I'm actually doing a little bit less. So where I did more strokes of my shattuck, I'm doing a few fewer, just to kind of simplify it a little bit. But this comes together quicker than you'd think. Okay, so I have that as a very basic, those first steps to hurry. And I've put another pattern in it. Now I can go in, and I'm going to do this the quick way. So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to add another aura all the way around. And you know, you absolutely could, if you wanted to, add patterns in these skinny little auras that we're making as well. Some, you know, some orbs or some perf or something along those would be great. I'm going to have to switch pens in a minute. But I wanted to finish these lines because that's something that a lot of people never think about or talk about is when you're working on a tile, when you change your pen, your stroke lines are different, the weighting is going to be different, everything's going to be different. So let's see, we will pull out my small giant thing of pens. That one's blue. I don't want a blue one. You know what? I am actually going to switch to a pen. Okay, so what I want to show you now is, remember I said we were going to use this as a string? I'm going to go in and I am just going to fill these spaces with some, I'm having pen problems today, people. All right, there we go. So I'm going to fill in these spaces with orbs. So I have used this pattern now as a string. I could have used it like I would have used my Z string in a basic class. You could fill these with all different patterns. And just really use it to take it to a different level. All right. So I'm not going to finish this particular one because I want the opportunity to show you a few other things. Okay. Set that one off to the side. Let's see. And now I'm going to show you, this is my favorite way to draw this. Okay. Up until now, we have used straight lines. Straight lines are awesome. Straight lines can also be kind of boring. So, with that in mind, I am going to, once again, grab another pen. I think it's time for me to clean out my pen bag and pull out some new pens. I've been doing a lot of tangling lately. This is my bigger, smaller pen bag. I have a pen problem. I also never like to throw out pens. It always feels like giving up on an old friend, and I hate that. So, and as my mom would tell you, I'm a little bit of a pack rat. All right, so I have a new pen. Let's see if this one works properly. So, like I said, straight lines are amazing, but straight lines can be a little boring too. And this is a very straight pattern, okay? So sometimes it's fun to take a straight pattern and mix it up. So I'm putting a curvy line right down the middle. I'm gonna aura to the right. I love my striped bag, and I'm gonna aura to the left. Okay, I am going to do 2 more auras, so another one to the right and another one to the left. I'm gonna turn my tile. I'm gonna go curvy in the opposite direction. Again, though, I'm not going to cross over any of my lines. And sometimes you have to kind of play with this. So this I don't have perfectly centered. At least it doesn't seem that way to me. So instead of going to the left, I'm going to put 1 more aura off to the right this time. Sometimes what you started with doesn't work exactly the way you meant it to, right? So now I'm going to turn my tile so that I'm on my diagonal now. This one I'm making a little less curvy because these are already getting a little tight in there, and that's okay. totally fine if they bump up against each other, right? So curvy line to the right, curvy aura to the left, curvy aura to the right, coming down. Uh-oh, I'm bumping into that. That's okay. I'm going to pick my pen up and let it tuck behind it. I'm just going to kind of put a mark there where that would be. Pick it back up on the other side. Okay, again to the left and all the way down. Now this one I find when I'm drawing it curvy, I find it is much easier to do it the way I'm doing it now. Okay, I'm going to turn the tile. One more. So I'm not doing the aura all the way around where I turn the tile and I do an aura on each side. I find it easier for me to make this look good if I do each row in order. Okay, so once I get these in, so one off to the right and then one off to the left. And I'll show you again what I mean by that once I get the base of hurry in place. All right. So now I have my original one, the unbroken one, the cross piece, and my two diagonals. Okay. Now I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to aura to the right. I'm not going to do so much here because I don't want to get into mixing that up in there. Also, haha, I caught myself here. Look, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4 there, and all the others have 5. So I missed a line while I was talking. And there we go. So see, there really shouldn't have been a whole lot of room there, which I caught when I looked at it. But if I'd messed it up, it wouldn't have mattered. Nobody would have known but me. And like I always tell people, no one knows what it was going to look like in your head. They only see what you actually put on paper. They don't know you didn't mean to do that. All right, so my aura to the right and my aura to the left. Okay, I'm going to do 2. So aura to the right, aura to the left. Now I find my cross piece, so that's this one. Aura to the right, aura to the left. And you could, if you wanted a different look, you could vary your pens so that every other stroke was a different weight pen. Or you could vary your thicknesses. Okay. And then turn. So now I'm working on the diagonal. And I'm doing my 2. I'm going to turn, working on my other diagonal. And the diagonals don't matter quite so much which order you do them in. So if you can't remember which diagonal was first, that's okay. But I always do that first unbroken piece, my cross piece, and then the diagonals. Okay. And again, coming back, straightening the tile to the original orientation that I had it in. Aura to the right and the left. Aura to the right. Almost out of space there, and to the left. Now you're going to fill up certain places before others, and that's okay. Okay, so now my crossbars are done. So now I move on to my diagonal. And see, I don't have any space here, and that's okay. I'm just going to continue. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm just going to skip that piece when I get to that spot. So there's that diagonal. I'm going to turn over here. And again, there's no space. And that's okay. I'm just going to go up here and finish that. Go here, no space. So now I look at it, do I want to do more? Do I want to fill it all the way up? I can. I would go in, I'd find this one. I'd go there, there's no space here. I'd go here, there, and there, right? And then here. I'd turn, no space here, little space there. Finish this section off now too. Okay. Turn to finish my diagonal. The only spot on this that I could do is right there, but I do have space here and I have space there. Turn again. The only place I have is right here. So I purposely did this because I wanted to show you. If I wanted to fill this all the way up, right? I did this, but now what do I do? So the only pieces that are left are these two. So you can actually alternate them coming in, just creating little auras. Okay? So now you have something that kind of looks like a whole bunch of tangled yarn or a bowl of spaghetti. You know, oh, I might be hungry. I'm already thinking about food. Everything looks like food. I'm going to come in and I'm going to do my shading, right? Your cross pieces are still there. You just have to look for them. They're in slightly different areas than they might have been before. Don't be afraid to turn your tile to see where things crisscross. And again, remember, this particular pattern really comes alive once you add in shading. I always laugh because I always say that this is going to be a 15-minute demo, and it's never a 15-minute demo because I always want to show you all kinds of cool things because there's so many things you can do with patterns that I don't see a lot of people doing. You know, we get so used to the way we learn to draw it, we kind of get stuck in a rut, and there's so many variations and so many varieties of things that you can do with stuff. Right? So again, for those that joined late, I like to use a mechanical pencil with this one because the little spaces are so delicate and I don't do a lot of blending out. I really am just kind of trying to create some little shadows. So I like that it's a more delicate shade that I get with the mechanical pencil. And I usually try and have a fresh tortillon, or at least freshly sharpened, which I do with an emery board or some sandpaper. Thanks, Terry. You really, you know, there's so many patterns out there, and I was going through my Zenthology not that long ago, and I realized that there's a lot of patterns that I really love that I didn't use quite as often. So one of the things that I just did here, and I meant to explain it, is I look for places where it looks like they're waves, where there's waviness, and I kind of add a little bit of shading to it to make it kind of bump up and down, kind of look like it's moving. And it adds a neat perspective and a lot of fun. Okay, so there's that. I want to show you the tiles that I did for my examples. Okay, so just because, again, these are some other fun ways, and I don't want to take your whole Saturday. I could, but I don't want to. Some other ways for you to use, let me see here, let me flip this over, something over to put this on. So this one, I took some of my calligraphy ink and I had dripped some on my tile in kind of a randomish pattern. And then I put Hurry on a curve. So I didn't really make it rounded or wavy like I just did, but instead of making them straight lines, I made them curved. Same technique, same pattern. I squished it into this negative space that was on this tile, and I think it kind of looks like a ball of yarn. And you could do them curved like this in any space. It doesn't have to be in an inked tile. I just thought that would be a neat way for me to show you a couple different things that you could do. Here is, and this I kind of showed you, putting a pattern within a pattern, except instead of using it as the string, this time I used it as the fill. Okay, this I used Huggins, crazy or wacky Huggins, which is another tangle that I love, that I actually do an entire 2-hour class on, just because I think that Huggins is so much fun and there's so much you can do with it that I can't quite squish it into one of these. So, but I used this as a fill pattern for that, and as you can see, using it smaller as a fill gives it a completely different versatility, gives it a completely different use, right? So something else fun to do with it. And then this one, and this is actually, I love this. I was looking for a piece that I have that I think unfortunately is actually at the studio because I wanted to show you. It is just this more. So I call this tangle, or this use of this tangle, I call it hurry in a hurry. Okay, and if you look, let me use this to point. So if you look right here, actually right here, I have my my main piece that's not broken, my crossbar, and my diagonals. I didn't aura those, but I put them in, right? And that gave me these other little spaces. And then I did hurry in each of those spaces. So it created a tessellation, kind of a fractally experience, for lack of a better word. But it is one of my favorite ways to use it. I use it larger and with that thought process, because then they all kind of nest and stack together, giving you a really cool continuation of the pattern. I love fractals. They're some of my favorite things. I love pretty math. So with that being said, you know, you can take this, and the way that they all interlock together, you could do tile after tile after tile and actually stack them all together to create a bigger, more mosaic kind of piece as well. So that's really all I have for you today. Later on, I will do one of my little sheets, and it will have all of these on there so that you can look at them as a little bit of a reference. This one probably won't be on there because it's the same tile. It just is done in a different size. And I'll finish this one up so that you can see them all finished. But I'm really glad you joined me today. I haven't decided what pattern I'm doing next Saturday, but look for these on Saturday mornings. I think that it's a fun way to start my Saturday, and it gives me the opportunity to come up with some cool stuff to share with all of you. If you are not on my mailing list, like I said, my newsletter's coming out this weekend. I will drop the link on my Facebook page right when we're done here, in case anybody wants to sign up. And if you know anyone, or if you want to come take it, tomorrow at 3, I am doing a Pay What You Can Zentangle 101 class. You can register for that on my website at whimsybykelly.com. It is a penny to register, only because it wouldn't let me make it free. And I just want to put that out there with the pandemic and everything. I know that a lot of people may not have the opportunity to spend something on a class, but they may want to get started. So I'm trying to offer one of those every so often. And then I have other classes as well I'd love to see you at. And I hope everybody has a wonderful Saturday and great rest of the weekend.